Good evening, you watching India First. I'm Gaurav Sawant. There is a major counter-terror operation that's currently underway in the forest of Doda in Jammu and Kashmir. I'm getting you the details of that operation. News just coming in about the army closing in on 3 suspected foreign terrorists. There was an encounter earlier today and a young army captain was killed in this fierce encounter with terrorists in the Doda forest in Jammu and Kashmir. The army has also recovered the body of 1 terrorist, and even as we speak, additional forces are closing in on the remaining 3 terrorists who are believed to be injured. At least some of these 3 terrorists have been injured. They managed to escape from the encounter site. The encounter started late last night and has intensified today. And on the eve of the Independence Day, the nation sadly lost a brave young military sportsman. Captain Deepak Singh of the 48th Battalion of the Rashtriya Rifles. In fact, he was a young field major. He led from the front. They chased terrorists. They neutralized at least 1. They've injured at least 2 others. That's the information that we have. We'll get you all the details, but as always, let's get started with the headlines at 10. Shock and anger across the country over Kolkata hospital brutality. Post-mortem report of the young lady doctor indicates more than 1 rapist may have been involved. CBI takes custody of the accused. Nationwide protests over the rape and alleged cover-up. Mamata Banerjee says the West Bengal government is ready to fully cooperate with the CBI, demands that the rapists be hanged by Sunday. India Bloc alliance partner Rahul Gandhi slams Mamata Banerjee, questions the cover-up bid in Kolkata rape case. Young army captain Deepak Singh killed in action in the Doda district in Jammu and Kashmir. 1 terrorist eliminated in the encounter, 1 AK-47 and 1 M4 assault rifle recovered. Yogi Adityanath questions the opposition, accuses them of being silent on Bangladesh atrocities against Hindu minorities, fearing losing their vote bank. Says what happened in 1947 is happening again in Bangladesh. Vinesh Fogart loses out on silver medal as the CAS rejects her plea. The Olympic Association expresses disappointment, says will explore further legal options. The Indian Army, based on specific intelligence inputs about the movement of 3 to 4 terrorists in the Doda sector in Jammu and Kashmir, mounted an operation late last night. A 26-year-old brave young army field major was leading the military team that spotted the terrorists and made contact late last night, but the encounter lasted through the day today. There was a fierce encounter that lasted through the night, and this morning, 1 terrorist body was recovered. 4 blood-soaked rucksacks, the haversacks that the terrorists were carrying, 4 blood-soaked rucksacks have been recovered so far. An M4 assault rifle, that's an American-made assault rifle, has been recovered. An AK-47 series rifle has also been recovered, along with other warlike stores from the encounter site. And these are very dense forests. It's a hilly area, but very dense forest, where the input was that these terrorists were hiding close to a river. As the army team closed in, the terrorists opened fire. The army returned fire. Now they've actually increased the area under cordon right now as the hunt continues for the second night for these terrorists. The weapon, the night sight and the warlike stores that the terrorists were carrying, remember there have been some major recoveries. Now this gives an idea of the kind of weapons, ammunition and the kind of training that terrorists have access to. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Shiv Arur, joining me with the latest on the operations that are currently underway. Shiv, what more can you tell us about this brave young field major Deepak Singh, and also about the encounter that I believe is still on? The cordon is on for the second night now.
Gaurav, Captain Deepak Singh, 26 years old, a field major leading from the front, someone who was, a part of the scout team in this operation, looking for these terrorists who were, not in sight. They were, they were very well hidden in one of the thickest jungles in the Assar area of Doda. You and I have both traveled there, reported from there as well. So you and I both know about the terrain here. Very, very difficult, many hiding places. And it was here that Captain Deepak, the young Captain Deepak, led from the front, made sure he was pinning down those terrorists with continuous fire while trying to protect his men, providing cover fire, providing leadership, even in that very, very difficult situation. Unfortunately, because there was more than one terrorist, they were able to, gain that advantage. They also apparently had some kind of a height advantage, and he suffered 3 gunshot wounds. He bled to death. He did not, he was not killed in action immediately. He survived. He was made of very, very strong stuff. We know that he was hugely physically fit, a sports person par excellence, someone who was very, very keen on keeping himself extremely fit. He made that one of the most important things in his life. So as we remember Captain Deepak at this time, let's also remember that one terrorist has been killed. At least 3 others are being hunted for. Even as we speak, the Doda operation continues. And considering the kinds of weapons that have been recovered, Gaurav, night sights, M4 carbines, other kinds of equipment, it seems pretty clear that these were commando-style terrorists. Whether or not it was a bat team, we don't know that yet. But a very clear, deep involvement of the Pakistan army, we can go ahead and say that's already apparent.
Oh, absolutely. Shiv, keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain joins me on this special broadcast. The General has served very extensively on either side of the Pir Panjal ranges, and we'll talk to him about these operations. But for the benefit of viewers who are joining us, I want to give you an overview of the operations that are taking place in Jammu and Kashmir and why terror suddenly is bleeding India south of Pir Panjal ranges. There have been 9 attacks in the past 2 months alone. Now, 14th of August is this encounter that we are talking about. 1 officer killed in action, 1 terrorist neutralized. Then, remember, just 5 days earlier, 10th of August, there was an encounter in Anantnag. That was north of Pir Panjal. So that's the Kashmir area north of Pir Panjal. 4 soldiers were killed in action and 4 were injured. 27th of July, again I'm taking you now north of Pir Panjal to Kupwara in North Kashmir. Another encounter, and we lost a brave heart. Let me bring you down south of Pir Panjal to Rajouri. And Rajouri, a little in the hinterland, in the depth area, but that Punch-Rajouri belt south of Pir Panjal near the line of control, there was another encounter. We lost a soldier. On the 15th of July, there was another encounter in this area, Doda, where we lost 3 jawans, 1 officer and 1 policeman. Then you'd recall 9th of July, Katwa encounter. We lost 5 braves in that encounter. 13th of June, that was the Gando incident. We lost a police officer. Then 12th of June, that was in the Chhatargala encounter. A Pakistani terrorist was killed there. The 9th of June, again, now this was the belt when intensification of operations were taking place. And terrorists, many said these are Pakistani terrorists in Riyasi that targeted Hindu pilgrims. So it's quite a systematic targeting that's taking place south of Pir Panjal. The list of fatalities also extremely high, and we'll show you the statistics. But I want to bring in General Hasnain for more on this. General Hasnain, a contact made, 1 terrorist killed, 4 blood-soaked red rucksacks recovered. If you were, as the co-commander who served extensively in this area, both north and south of Pir Panjal, what picture would you draw from this?
See, first of all, Gaurav, my very deep regrets at this. The officer, Captain Deepak Singh, happens to be a regimental officer of mine.
Yes.
48 RR is my regimental unit, and I deeply regret this. And you have eulogized him tremendously, there's no doubt. He was leading right from the front when he suffered this unnecessarily the fatality which he suffered. Now, having said that, there's no doubt that for the 1st of August onwards, particularly, that's the demarcating line I'm saying.
Okay.
Before that, we've had a series of almost very, very negative encounters all along.
Yes.
I've been speaking to some of the people south of the Pir Panjal, and I learned now the Poonch, Rajouri, Thana Mandi area generally seems to be comparatively much more stable. There has been no encounter in this for a period of almost a month and a half. But it is this Doda, Riyasi and stretching eastwards, this is the area which is causing some worry. More troops have been added here. Fresh troops have been brought in here. It is natural that we are going to find many more encounters taking place. And I'm happy that encounters are taking place because the whole idea of operating proactively here is to ensure those encounters. The only thing is that we should not lose officers, we should not lose our men.
Yes.
And for that, it is important that we must continue to master our small-scale tactics. Our first 2 minutes of a contact, that's the time when we suffer casualties most of the time. Yes. If I was there at this time, and I'm sure all the commanders, very, very experienced commanders of the Indian Army, will be passing the same directions. Please be extremely careful of the first 2 minutes of the contact, because that is the time you are on the move, the terrorists are in hiding, and once that situation emanates, obviously they have the advantage for that period. You have to be extremely careful, you have to be extremely watchful. Intelligence, you have to launch these kind of operations essentially on generation of intelligence.
Okay.
These sporadic operations of the squadron and search type or the search and destroy operation don't usually lead to this kind of a positive encounter in our favor.
So these are intelligence-based operations is what I've been told, but the kind of weapons that the terrorists have, the M4, the assault rifle, the night sights, the kind of sights terrorists are using, the military precision of their firing, the fire control that terrorists are displaying, what do you make of this? And again, all these encounters that have been taking place south of Pir Panjal, whether in Poonch, Rajouri, Thana Mandi belt, then it only indicates that the terrorists were earlier in the border belt. Now they're moving towards the hinterland in Doda and, Riyasi, Doda, God forbid. Next they'll be hitting Kishtwar and then Anantnag and Srinagar, sir.
Both, Gaurav, both in terms of human resources, they are definitely of a higher quality. And equipment-wise, I think what Pakistan has invested in is lesser numbers, although in this case the Pir Panjal is abounding with about 40 to 50 terrorists. Early in erstwhile years, numbers were much more, yes. But these 40 to 50 terrorists, extremely well equipped, as you have seen with M4 rifles and of that kind, and with night fighting equipment. Now that is something which was not evident in the earlier years, because we used to come across an odd night sight in one encounter or so. But increasingly, we are finding more and more night fighting equipment coming in here, which is obviously placing them at an advantage when they are in ambush positions, sitting in jungle terrain. Obviously, we will have to neutralize this by more and more operations of ours, domination operations of ours, conducted at night, along with lots and lots of night fighting aids. We don't have any shortage of night fighting aids, I'm aware of this, but we have to gain proficiency in the training and in those aids, and with fresh troops coming in, Assam Rifles troops coming in, we will need to be very, very proficient in all these things.
Sir, I want to understand this from you. Earlier it was said that there are long gaps because we moved an entire division from this area and moved that division to the LAC. Then we were told that a brigade plus has moved in. Some of those gaps have been filled. Additional sources of the Assam Rifles and some others were brought in. All of that has happened, yet encounters are taking place. In every encounter, the terrorist would have that advantage because he fires first. Is there something that the army can do that the army has that advantage, that the army is able to spot and neutralize these terrorists? You need more drones in that area, more tactical drones in that area, something that needs to be done that would keep own casualties down.
See, Gaurav, drones are helpful, no doubt. But the kind of vegetation cover which is there in these areas, in these kind of jungles, does not allow drones to be able to penetrate through them. The energy that the drones have normally do not give you that kind of an imprint to be able to give you hot spots where terrorists are holed up. One of the measures, of course, is that you have to do intelligence-generated operations which take you to specific hideouts and specific areas which you are confirmed, your information is confirmed for you. The second thing is, which a lot of people don't do, and that is what is called population control measures.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong, no one is looking for controlling the population of Jammu region. What we are saying, this is a terminology which the military uses,
Yes.
is called population control measures, in which the logistics which is available to the terrorist cadres has tremendous amount of restrictions placed on it, which means in that area there are control over the amount of resources which are coming in, which are being moved out, cement, for example, food items, atta, dal, chawal, and that things of that kind which have to be stocked in the mountains for these terrorists to be able to sustain themselves for some time. The moment you start destroying hideouts, you may have in many of these operations, you may not find a terrorist, you may not kill a terrorist. But if you destroy 2 or 3 hideouts, burn up all the rations there, I can assure you, he is forced to come down. He's forced to come down to another area, a populated area, where you or your intelligence is going to get him. That's how we eliminated a very large number of terrorists in Kashmir way back in 2000, 2001, 2002, with the use of reserve formations, which came in at that time to generate this kind of activity.
More helicopters, can they be rushed in so that troops can mount precise of the moment you have intelligence, instead of troops spending 8 hours climbing, use a helicopter, go higher than the terrorists, land, rappel down and then come down?
Gaurav, you said it absolutely, and this is something that I have employed personally myself on the Pir Panjal. 4 to 6 Me-17 helicopters, even 4 Me-17 helicopters flying in. Instead of doing a search upwards, you're doing a search downwards. It's far, far more lucrative to be able to do a search downwards. Troops are fresh. Troops don't get tired. They can continue working. They can continue a cycle of operations for far longer. So that is the answer. There's no doubt about it. The problem is something, if you remember, of Operation Sarp Vinash.
Yes.
Sarp Vinash 2003 started with the construction of Me-17 helipads at the higher altitude.
Absolutely.
Which is what gave us the greatest advantage. Now, this is something which we perhaps need to do once again if these operations are going to extend.
And most likely they will, given the fact that the terror state in our neighborhood, this is its only bread and butter to be able to generate funds to kill people here. Sir, before I let you go in last 30 seconds, the overground workers, I believe one OGW has been taken into custody today. But in case these OGWs exist, then that information should be made public in a much bigger way, and perhaps the harshest possible action under law should be taken against these overground workers of terrorists, irrespective of their religion or political parties' affiliations.
No doubts about that at all, and that's the role of the Jammu and Kashmir police. The SOG normally is very, very good at that. This is something we focused on tremendously in 15 Corps in Kashmir, and this is something which is very difficult in the case of 16 Corps, because 16 Corps operating areas are extensive, far and wide. Yes. They are not concentrated in urban areas the manner in which 15 Corps has got. So it is a major problem, but yes, overground worker networks is something which perhaps 16 Corps or the area south of Pir Panjal did not focus on for very long, because they generally a peaceful environment had been created almost 12 to 15 years ago. This is some kind of operations which they will have to enforce now to ensure that they have the same kind of achievements that we did in Kashmir.
General Hasnain, we will continue to track developments on the story very closely, and this clearly is a warning to those who are, one, either prematurely declaring victory over terrorism south of Pir Panjal, two, calling for removal of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in this declaration of premature victory over Pakistan, when the terror tap clearly is controlled by Pakistan. General Hasnain, for joining me here, many thanks. I now want to shift focus to the other big story we're tracking around India today, and that is the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. He's hit out at the Congress party. He's come out all guns blazing, targeting the opposition bloc for its selective silence on attacks on Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh, and their vote bank politics. He blamed it on their vote bank politics of the Congress and the opposition parties, that when they're seeing Hindus are being killed, yet they'll keep quiet because they don't want to annoy their vote bank in this country. The Chief Minister was speaking on the horrors of partition and insisted what happened during partition in 1947 was actually being repeated in Bangladesh and had already been repeated in Pakistan with the systematic targeting of Hindu minorities.
उस समय 10 लाख हिंदू एक साथ काटे गए थे, हिंदू सिख सभी थे, एक साथ काटे गए थे। उसी प्रकार की त्रासदी का दृश्य आज भी हम सबके सामने है।
Strong words from Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath recounting horrors of partition. 10 lakh Hindus and Sikhs were massacred during partition that Yogi Adityanath blamed on vested political interest that sacrificed 1 million lives at the altar of political gains.
एन केन प्रकारेण सत्ता प्राप्त होनी चाहिए, इसके लिए चाहे देश को ही दांव पे क्यों न लगाना पड़े, और यही तो हुआ। यही 1947 में भी हुआ और 1947 के बाद भी लगातार यही हो रहा है। जब भी इन लोगों के हाथों में सत्ता आई, इन्होंने देश की कीमत पर राजनीति की।
Yogi Adityanath compared the targeting of Hindus in Bangladesh today to a repeat of the horrors of partition, blaming the same mindset for the killing of Hindus, Buddhists and other minorities, and the targeting of their temples, homes and businesses. He insisted division of the country on religious lines was alien to the ethos and culture of the region, and Pakistan would either merge with India or fail to exist as an entity.
वही तो पूर्वी पाकिस्तान कहा जाने वाला आज का बांग्लादेश में वही तो हो रहा है। उस समय 10 लाख हिंदू एक साथ काटे गए थे, हिंदू सिख सभी थे, एक साथ काटे गए थे। और आज भी वही आगजनी, वही तोड़फोड़, वही लूटपाट, बहन और बेटियों के साथ वही अत्याचार, उसी प्रकार की त्रासदी का दृश्य आज भी हम सबके सामने है।
Speaking in Lucknow on the eve of the Independence Day, the Chief Minister blamed vested political interest and vote bank politics behind the silence of political parties and some intellectuals, even today, at the atrocities against minorities, both in Bangladesh and in Pakistan.
1.5 करोड़ हिंदू किस तरीके से बांग्लादेश के अंदर आज चिल्ला चिल्ला करके अपने आप को, अपनी अस्मिता को बचाने के लिए गुहार लगा रहे हैं, और दुनिया के मुंह सिले हुए, भारत के अंदर भी इनके मुंह सिले हुए एक भी शब्द इनका नहीं निकल रहा है, क्योंकि उनको भय है कि अगर इन निरीह कमजोर लोगों के इस पक्ष में इन्होंने आवाज निकाली तो इनका वोट बैंक खिसक जाएगा।
He warned of a repeat of the horrors if lessons are not learned from mistakes of the past. He blamed the opposition India Alliance bloc in general and the Congress in particular for the rise of radical Islamist terror from partition to the current situation in Bangladesh. Bureau Report, India Today.
We'll track the story very closely.